Hello students, welcome back to the channel Physiology Redefined. In the last video, I talked about the first component of the neuromuscular system, that is the structure of the neuron. As I told earlier that neuromuscular system is comprised of number 1 nerve, number 2 neuromuscular junction, and number 3 is the muscle, out of which the structure of the nerve or the neuron I discussed in my earlier video. If you didn't see it, please see these things, watch that video first and then watch this video that is on the topics types of the neuron. So in this video I will talk about the different types of the neuron. So I advise please watch this video till the end so that everything regarding the types of the neurons will be very clear to you, and that is the motto of taking my class in this channel. Anyway, so as I told, the neurons are of different types and there are different bases of classifications. Neurons are classified on different aspects. So first I will talk about the Erlanger Gasser Classification. This is basically on the basis of the diameter and the conduction velocity. Diameter and conduction velocity. So as per diameter and the conduction velocity, how much rapidly the nerve passes the signal. That is the conduction velocity. As on the basis of the diameter and the conduction velocity, which is given by scientists Erlanger and Gasser, and that way known as the Erlanger Gasser Classification. So what is this type of classifications? As per these classifications, there are 3 types of the nerves. There are 3 types of the nerves. Number 1, number 2, number 3. What are those types? Type A, type B and the type C. Type A, type B and the type C. Now this type A nerve fiber are again further classified. These are again further classified into different subtypes. So what is this? Let us see here. So A is again classified into A alpha, A beta, A gamma and A delta. So there are 4 subtypes of the A type of fibers. 4 subtypes of the A type of fibers. Now these A type of the fibers are generally the sensory fibers. These are the sensory fibers, out of which A is known as, this A is again classified into 2 types, or alpha type of fibers are generally the sensory fibers. So alpha, A alpha are the sensory fibers, which are again classified into 2 categories. One is known as the group 1A and the group 1B. So A is classified into group 1A and group 1B as per their sensory character. So now regarding the A alpha, this has got highest diameter. That means the myelin sheath is very thick, which is how much? 13 to 20 micron. And this thickest one is basically because of the thick layer of the myelin sheath. So myelin sheath is present here, and as the myelin sheath is present and its diameter is maximum, its conduction velocity is maximum, that is 80 to 120 milliseconds meter per second. So as the diameter is more, it will rapidly pass the signal. So conduction velocity is maximum 80 to 120 meter per second. And where does it present? These are present in the muscle spindle. As I told that this type of receptors, this type of nerves or neurons are sensory neurons which are present in the muscle spindle. That is the intrafusal fibers, intrafusal muscle, intrafusal skeletal type of skeletal muscle, which is known as the muscle spindle. And in the muscle spindle, in the central part of the muscle spindle, there is a annulospiral ring. Nerve fibers are making a coil structure at the center of this muscle spindle, which are known as the annulospiral end of the sensory neurons. And these neurons are known as the primary sensory neurons of the muscle spindle. Primary sensory neurons of the muscle spindle. Second type of alpha fibers, which is known as group 1B fibers. Group 1B fibers. These are having same diameter. Myelin sheath is present. Conduction velocity obviously will be same. And these are present at the Golgi tendons, at the joints. In the joints, in the Golgi tendon part, these fibers are there, and this is also sensory. So all these are this is also sensory, this is also sensory. Now, second type of A fibers are known as the A beta fibers. Diameter is a little bit less. Myelin sheath is there. Conduction velocity is less, and these are present in the muscle spindle, which are at the end of the muscle spindle, and these are the secondary receptors of the muscle spindle. So these act as a secondary receptors in the muscle spindle. A beta fibers. A gamma fibers, diameter is further less, myelin sheath is present. As the diameter is less, conduction velocity will be also less, and these are present at the intrafusal fibers, and these are responsible for the motor function. So this is motor. So this is also sensory. This is also sensory, and this is the motor one. And finally, the A delta fiber, diameter is less. This is moderately thin. Conduction velocity will be again less, and these are distributed in the mechaноreceptors, in the free nerve endings, which act as touch receptors or pressure receptors or cold receptors, and also the nociceptors or the pain receptors. So again, these are also sensory in nature. So then second category of, as per the Erlanger Gasser Classification, second type of fibers are known as the B fibers. B fibers, diameter is very less because it has very thin myelin sheath. So conduction velocity is less, and these are distributed as the preganglionic fiber. As you know that the nerve fiber originating from the central nervous system, they are distributed towards the visceral organs in the form of the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system has got a ganglia which is close to the visceral organ, and up to that ganglia, that fiber is known as the preganglionic fiber, and beyond the ganglia, that fiber is known as the postganglionic fiber, which gives the supply to the visceral organ. So B type of fibers are present at the autonomic ganglia in the preganglionic fiber form, and these are motor in nature. And finally, C type of fibers, diameter is very less because it has got no myelin sheath. It is unmyelinated, so it is the unmyelinated fibers. It is unmyelinated fibers. Generally, these are the vagal fibers, unmyelinated fibers. So no myelin sheath, and thereby conduction velocity is very less, very slow, and these are distributed in the postganglionic autonomic nervous systems, in the postganglionic as a postganglionic fiber, and these are also motor in nature. So this is the first type of classification of the neuron, that is on the basis of diameter and the conduction velocity, which is otherwise known as the Erlanger Gasser classification. Second type of classification is known as the on the basis of polarity. On the basis of polarity. Second type of neuron is classified on the basis of polarity. So next is on the basis of polarity. On the basis of polarity, there are four types of the neurons. Four types of the neurons. First one is known as the unipolar neuron. That means in these neurons what's happened, only from the one pole of the cell body the branch will take place. The action or the branch will take place. So this is the cell body, and only from one part of the cell body a single process will originate, and that ultimately divides into different branches. So this type of neuron, as it has got only one process originating from a single pole, single site, and thereby this is known as the unipolar. So this is the unipolar type of things, unipolar type of neurons. Unipolar neuron. This is the unipolar neurons. Generally, these unipolar neurons are present in the invertebrates. In the vertebrates, it is present only in the embryonic life. Only in the embryonic life. These are in the human beings. So this is, that means unipolar has got one process from single pole, and this is present in the embryonic life of human beings. Second type of neuron is known as the pseudo unipolar neuron. Pseudo unipolar neuron. So what is this pseudo unipolar neuron? So this is the second type of neuron, which is known as the pseudo unipolar neuron. This is the pseudo unipolar neuron. So pseudo unipolar means here you see, from a single pole the process will originate. From a single pole a process will originate. That gives branches. That gives two branches. This is first branch and this is the second branch. One branch, suppose first branch, this goes to the central nervous system, and the second branch goes to the peripheral nervous system. So this goes to the, one branch goes to the central nervous system and another branch goes to the peripheral nervous system. So in this case, in this unipolar case, what's happened? One pole, from one pole, two process will appear, two process will originate, and this has got without any dendrites, without any dendrites. This has got no dendrites. This has got no dendrites. This is also axon. This is also axon. And why it is pseudo unipolar? Actually, two branches are there. One goes to central nervous system, another goes to peripheral nervous system, and both the branches are originated from the single part, and this is very close to the cell, and thereby it gives a false impression that this two branch is getting originated from two parts of the cell body or the soma. There is a false impression that two branches are getting originated from two parts of the cell. But it is not like that. From a single part of the cell, a single branch is to appear, and this branch with a very short period, they give rise, they give two branches. One goes to central nervous system, another goes to peripheral nervous system. So this is the type of neuron which is known as pseudo unipolar neuron, and this type of neurons are present in, these are present in dorsal root ganglia of the spinal cord, dorsal root ganglia of spinal cord, and also in the trigeminal ganglia, this type of pseudo unipolar neurons are there. In case of brains, some of the neurons are also pseudo unipolar, like the brush cells of the cerebellum. These are the different types of the neurons which are presented, which are known as the pseudo unipolar neuron. And third type of neuron is known as the bipolar neuron. Bipolar neuron. So what is this bipolar neuron? Bipolar neuron is a cell body, two parts of the cell body. From one part of the cell body, the dendrites are formed, and from another part of the cell body, the long branches is to give, which is known as the nucleus of the cell. So two process originating from two separate poles, two separate sites, distinctly separate two sites are involved to produce two branches. One is the dendrons or the dendrite. This is the dendrons or dendrites, and this is the axon. So two processes are originating from two distinctly separate pole or part of the cell body or the soma, and this type of neuron is known as the bipolar neuron. So this is the bipolar neuron, and this, so bipolar neuron here, that two poles, from two poles, that gives rise two branches. One is the axon and another is the dendron, and this is located in the retina. Bipolar neurons of the retina are the examples. Retina bipolar neurons. So bipolar neurons of the retina are the examples of bipolar neurons. And finally, there is another type of neurons on the basis of polarity, that is known as multipolar neuron. Multipolar neuron. So what is this multipolar neuron? multipolar neurons, that means that so this is the structures of the multipolar neuron, So here one long process and so many separate short processes. These are all known as the dendrites. So multiple dendrites are originated from multiple poles, and an axon is originated from another pole, another distinctly separate pole. So there are multiple origins. So in this case, what's happened? Multiple poles are there, multiple areas or multiple poles, which gives rise one axon and multiple dendron or the dendrites. So this is the examples of the structure of the multipolar neurons. And most of the neurons present in our brain, present in the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, these are the examples of the multipolar neurons. So in the human body, multipolar neurons are maximally present. So entire central nervous system, that is brain and the spinal cord, are basically comprised of the multipolar type of neurons. So now is about the third classification, which is known as on the basis of structure. On the basis of structure, there are two types of the neurons. One is known as the myelinated neurons. Another one is known as the unmyelinated neurons. That means the neurons which has got myelin sheath, known as myelinated neurons, which has got no myelin sheath, is known as unmyelinated neurons. So as per the structure is concerned, two types of the neurons are there. Then is the on the basis of functions. On the basis of function, again two types of the neurons are there. One is known as the sensory neuron, and second one is known as the motor neuron. That means some neurons receive the signal from the external environment or the internal environment and send it to the brain or the spinal cord. Those are known as the sensory neurons. They receive the signal from the external or the internal environment, are known as the sensory neurons. Whereas another category of the neurons which sends the signal from the CNS to the peripheral parts of the body, to the effector organ, to give the response, and thereby those are known as the motor neuron. So two types of the neurons on the basis of the functions. Fourth one is, so this is the third, I think. Second was the one, that is the polarity. This is the fourth. Now is on the basis of distribution. On the basis of distribution, again there are two types of the neurons. One is known as the somatic neuron and another one is known as the visceral neuron. So one is distributed or supplied to the somatic structures of the body, like skeletal muscle, like the bones, joints, etc. So those are known as the somatic neuron, and some are distributed to the different organs, visceral organs in our body like heart, kidney, intestines, etc. So those are known as the visceral neurons. So as per the distribution is concerned, two types of neurons, somatic neurons and the visceral neurons. Next is on the basis of origin. So on the basis of origin, again the neurons are of two types. One is known as the cranial neuron and second one is known as the spinal neuron. That means some of the neurons are originated from the brain and thereby or cranium and thereby known as cranial neurons, whereas some others are originated from the spinal cord and thereby known as spinal neurons. So as per the origin is concerned, again two types of neuron, cranial and the spinal. And finally, on the basis of neurotransmitter release, that means what chemical type of neurotransmitters are getting released from that particular neuron, which chemicals are released on the basis of that particular neuron. On the basis of that criteria, these neurons are also classified into three types. First one is known as the adrenergic neuron or noradrenergic neuron, which the neuron releases the adrenaline or epinephrine and norepinephrine or noradrenaline. So those are known as the adrenergic neurons. And second one is known as the cholinergic neurons. So some of the neurons release the acetylcholine at their terminal end, at their action terminal, and those neurons are thereby known as cholinergic neurons, as these are releases the chemical substance acetylcholine. These are responsible for release of adrenaline or noradrenaline. So those are known as adrenergic, and which release acetylcholine is known as cholinergic. There are also other category of the neurons which are responsible for release of neither adrenaline or noradrenaline nor acetylcholine. They are responsible for releasing of some other forms of the chemical substances like dopamine, like serotonin, like GABA or gamma aminobutyric acids, and so others. So other neurotransmitters are there. So those are classified under the others category. So others as per the neurotransmitter release, adrenergic, cholinergic and others. Under this there is the serotonin, there is the dopamine, there is the GABA. So if the serotonin is released, those are known as serotonergic. If the dopamine is released, those are known as dopaminergic. If the GABA is released, those are known as GABAergic. So these are under a same category which are known as the others category. So these three types of the neurons on the basis of neurotransmitter release. So these are the different types of the neurons. I hope the types of the neuron is now very clear to you. So as I always suggest you, if you like this video, if you like this class, don't forget to share it to your friend circle, and also don't forget to subscribe it if not yet subscribed. Thank you.